task has always been with us. Before I was born, before my dad was born, before my grandfather was born, the issue of task remained with us, and task is universal all over the world. We continue to have task. What differs is the scope, the governance, the transparency, and the understanding. So we organize this AGM and we make it task focused because there is a new tax law in Nigeria, about 3 of them, and it is important as business people that conduct our businesses in Nigeria to have understanding of the new tax law. And this we have done by bringing the president of tax institution in Nigeria to be the keynote speaker today. And we are quite happy with his exposition and his explanation. The new tax law is not that it's going to create body. It has to be hasty for anyone to say that. I think what is important for us is to understand the law, and that is exactly what we have done.
We choose a team that is apt and strategic to our time. Knowing well fully that the introduction of the new tax system could be a little bit confusing to people, or they may not understand it. So that's why we had to bring in this task as the subject of this year's conference, so that people will be enlightened, they have understanding, and have a good learning of the tax system. Because people are kind of a little bit jittery or not too comfortable with the way the whole thing is. But with the presentation today and the understanding that they derive from it, I'm sure that people will go home understanding what next to do. Like the keynote speaker said, it's all about proper profiling of your account system. When you do a proper profiling of your account system, you are bound to now understand it and then know that your income is not everything that comes to you. So that's actually what it is. As a matter of fact, reduce the cost of houses is for the government to understand that they have a role to play. You see, housing is a basic need of man, like I always say. If government understand that their role is to provide lands, and they partner with us in the industry as developers, and we bring in our parts, then the cost of houses will reduce, because you do not expect a situation where a developer goes and buys a piece of land for 2 billion, for maybe probably for 1 or 2 hectares, and then the cost is already there and it's going to be transferred to the final buyer. And then you go to the bank to borrow money for your project and you're talking about 30-35%. You see where the problem is actually coming from. The developer, it is the government and its policy that matter. Once the government have a deliberate and conscious policy that is aimed at reducing the cost of housing, I can assure you that the cost of houses will go down. It is the responsibility of government to ensure that the cost of houses go down. It has happened before, it can happen again. You had the Shagari low-cost houses. It happened. You had the Jakande estate in Lagos. It happened. You also had the 2002 Abagana model, which also happened in Abuja here. So it can always happen if the government brings up a conscious and deliberate policy to ensure that the price of houses come down. The developers cannot do much. Our duty is to ensure that the houses are provided.
When you look at the challenges we have in the housing sector, we have the housing collapse and we have quacks in the industry. We see that it's worthwhile having this meeting to be able to educate ourselves, bring ourselves to speed on what is sustainable in other spaces. So I see that the REDAN experts have put it together to bring the players in the industry to speed, and it's very important. The first thing to do is that government recognizing developers as partners in progress. Once that is put in place, we will see that houses begin to the price of houses will begin to come down for the ordinary to afford. And if government can go as far as open up spaces, open up roads, and do the infrastructure, and the developer will take it upon themselves to be able to do the remaining things and at an affordable price. The governor is trying his best to see that the workers, the civil servants, are well accommodated, and then even the other indigents are also taken care of. If you look at the issues of security, he's doing his best in that aspect. And you see that many people are returning to their houses from the what they call it now, IDP camps. They are returning to their houses. So I see that it's taking it very serious.
It's a conglomeration of like minds association, and it's for us to set the pace for the new year 2026 and to ensure that each of our chapters nationwide are in sync with the central government body, and of course chart a new course, a daring course into the built industry space for the common good of developers, external and internal stakeholders, and the government at large. So that's why we are here, and a lot of what we have been discussing so far and what we'll discuss the next few hours will determine our quote route to market on what will be achieved in 2026 with the betterment of everybody. For the new tax reforms, which is the buzz everywhere, in the built industry, there are a lot of gray areas that haven't been harmonized yet. So I would appeal to the government to have an ad hoc committee to sit with stakeholders like REDAN to share with us specific gray areas that generally and specifically concern us as developers, and look at how to harmonize or how to ensure those gray areas are well taken care of. It's understandable, and we know that the tax reforms is as a reason for the government to alleviate people's stress and to alleviate the citizens' stress. And in the long run, we all know it is something that is advantageous to citizens. However, the level of implementation, the gray areas need to consistently be spelled out. We also know that as a platform and as a movement, there is always consistent review of these policies per time, accordingly, over a period of time. So it's not fully perfected yet. This is where, as a body, we need to have the federal government consistently have an ad hoc committee or a meeting with us so that we can ensure that those lines are well spelled out for the benefit of everybody. Also a buzz now, hikes in rents both in Lagos and in Abuja, capital cities, and that's basically what Nigerians need. There's first of all a high deficit in housing, and now there's a strong spike in rental values everywhere. However, I have a small say that what is not seen, what is not accountable for, cannot be measured. We need to have an association of either agents or realtors managed and mandated by state governments or federal government. There needs to be a cross-board in terms of agent fees. We cannot ask agents or realtors or even developers at the end of the day, especially realtors and agents, to stop giving out funds or to stop doing business. But what is seen in the built industry and in that value chain is that there's such a huge amount of fees that are being thrown back to the end user, which unfortunately is the Nigerian populace, the struggling citizenship, who want to have accommodation over their heads. So it's for the government to institute a bylaw that can ensure that agent fees is cut across, is harmonized, it is reasonable, even if there has to be a subsidy, even at a particular point in time, for people that are renting. I'm not saying it's mandatory, but there should be a law guiding these things. You can't expect people to let out property for a specific affordable or highly more affordable rent, and a lot of them they are paying almost close to 40% for agents or for realtors, quote unquote. So there has to be a written law. There has to be a mandated organization to ensure that this is foreseen, this is managed, and this does not escalate. Because just like we all know, one of the most important human needs is housing, and the Nigerian citizen deserves housing and accommodation.
For me, developers learned a lot more today on how to be better citizens and how the new tax regime works. And so we are ready to take community focus. Reality is that there's not much we can do. When the prices of raw materials is skyrocketing and the cost of land acquisition is also skyrocketing. So at the end of the day, you must factor that into consideration before you finish your house or this. So bottom line is the only thing we do is we can only recommend is that the government of the day help with maybe looking into the cost of building materials and then some other things. If there could be some incentives, we could actually be grateful if this is good. But in the hands of the developer, there's little or nothing.
Current tax law in Nigeria today, which would be very, very good. It's a strategic tool for our business that will help us to re-strategize and know what to map out and give it to the government as at when due based on the new tax policy. Okay, that's one of the strategies that is being mapped out today, and it's something that has already been slated for us as a member of Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria. And the basic way we can be able to do that is to move into developing areas to start developing our properties and make it affordable so that people may not be able to think that they can actually live within the confines of the metropolitan city, but outside the metropolitan city will be a bit cheaper. If a metropolitan city is costing at the rate of 1 million naira, so outside metropolitan city can cost at the rate of 500,000, which would be very much affordable to the citizens. This is one of the things that is being looked at for us.
It is quite massive. It is very massive because our biggest problem is ignorance. When you understand, like today, personally, I learned a lot about the new tax law, and it's really going to help me going forward. Record keeping and the rest. So it is very massive. The importance cannot be overemphasized. When it comes to housing and difficulties in living in Nigeria, it has to go back to the government, right? Because as a developer or REDAN, as a body, we do not manufacture building materials. We buy from the market. So it is what we get that we are going to give out, if you understand what I mean. So basically, it is still going back to the government. The government has a whole lot of role to play to help us help ourselves and Nigerians. The person I think the government should do for us in this country is mortgage for most people so that they can pay over a period of time and own their houses. Then again, import duties, they should look at a whole lot of things because there are the three basic needs of man are looking at shelter, clothing, and food. If you have food and you don't have a place to lay your head, if you have clothes and you don't have a place to lay your head, you see it's still difficult. So for me, I think shelter is number one. I can stay in my house and go days without food. I can stay in my house and go naked. I don't know if you understand. So I think the government should lay more emphasis in trying to subsidize a whole lot of things in building materials so that to bring down the cost of houses, constructing houses, and introduce mortgage to the common man in Nigeria.